What keeps you up at night? Is it the thought of someone, some random mediocre nobody, not approving of you? Is that really what's stopping you from becoming who you could be? Let me tell you something uncomfortable. Most people live their entire lives trapped in an invisible prison. They shuffle through existence desperately trying to be liked by people they don't even respect. How pathetic is that? You're sacrificing your potential because you're terrified that some underachiever might think you're too much. I see it every day. Talented people dimming their light, ambitious minds playing small, creative geniuses watering down their vision. All because they're paralyzed by the fear of being disliked by people who haven't accomplished a damn thing worth mentioning. Here's your brutal reality check. While you're obsessing over what the mediocre masses think, the extraordinary few are leaving you in the dust. The coward's bargain. Let's be crystal clear about what you're doing when you fear disapproval. You're making what I call the coward's bargain, trading your authenticity for the lukewarm acceptance of people who don't matter. Think about it. Who are these people whose opinions you're so worried about? Your passive-aggressive coworker who's been in the same position for 8 years. Your cousin who criticizes everyone but hasn't had an original thought since high school. The social media mob whose collective accomplishments couldn't fill a post-it note. These are the judges you've appointed over your life. These are the people you're allowing to dictate your choices, your expression, your potential. What a waste. The greatest minds throughout history, the innovators, the game changers, the revolutionaries, they weren't universally loved. In fact, they were often despised by the average person. Why? Because excellence triggers mediocrity. Ambition makes complacency uncomfortable. Originality threatens conformity. When you start moving upward, you'll find that the crabs in the bucket will always try to pull you back down. The mathematics of disapproval. Here's a cold, hard truth that might sting. If you're doing anything meaningful, innovative, or ambitious, you will be disliked. It's not a possibility. It's a mathematical certainty. The more visible your success becomes, the more people will find reasons to dislike you. They'll call you arrogant, lucky, privileged, ruthless, or fake. They'll scrutinize your methods, question your motives, and diminish your achievements. Why? Because your success forces them to confront their own limitations and excuses. When you shine too brightly, you expose the darkness others have settled for. Your courage highlights their cowardice. Your discipline spotlights their laziness. Your clarity reveals their confusion, and people hate having their comfortable delusions shattered. But here's the question that should keep you up at night. Are you really willing to sacrifice your potential just to avoid criticism from people who have sacrificed theirs? The liberation of selective caring. The key isn't developing a thick skin, it's developing a selective filter. Every time you worry about disapproval, ask yourself, does this person's opinion truly matter to my growth and purpose? Have they earned the right to influence my path? If they haven't demonstrated excellence in the areas you value, if they haven't achieved what you aspire to, if they haven't shown the courage to pursue their own vision, then why the hell are you giving them rent-free space in your head? Your mental real estate is premium property. Stop leasing it to emotional squatters. The truth is, most disapproval comes from people who don't matter to your journey. They're not in the arena with you. They're spectators throwing popcorn from the cheap seats. And as the saying goes, critics don't build monuments. The hierarchy of approval. Not all approval is created equal. The validation from one person who truly understands your field, your struggles, and your ambitions is worth more than the collective applause of 1,000 casual observers. This is why the fear of being disliked by losers, and let's define that term precisely, people who have abandoned their own potential, is not just psychologically damaging, but strategically stupid. When you optimize for general likability, you dilute your authentic power. You become a bland, inoffensive version of yourself that appeals to the lowest common denominator. Is that really your ambition? To be the human equivalent of elevator music? The most successful people I've encountered share one common trait. They're absolutely comfortable being disliked by people who don't share their values or vision. They don't waste precious energy trying to win over everyone. They focus that energy on impressing the select few whose opinion actually advances their purpose. The approval addiction. Let's talk about what this fear really is. An addiction. Like any junkie, you're hooked on the dopamine hit of validation. You'll compromise your truth, filter your expression, and contort yourself into unnatural positions, all for that next hit of approval. But like any addiction, the more you feed it, the stronger it grows. The more approval you seek, the more you need. It's an insatiable beast that will eventually consume everything authentic about you. The first step to recovery is admitting you have a problem. So ask yourself, am I addicted to approval? Do I regularly sacrifice my authentic expression to avoid disapproval? If the answer is yes, you're not living, you're performing. The historical perspective. History is filled with individuals who were ridiculed, rejected, and reviled in their time, only to be vindicated by the passage of time. Van Gogh sold only one painting in his lifetime. Einstein's theories were dismissed by the scientific establishment. Martin Luther King Jr. was considered a dangerous radical by the majority of Americans during his lifetime. Were they wrong because they were disliked? Or were they disliked because they were right too soon? The crowd is almost always wrong about what matters most. The masses mock what they don't yet understand. They fear what challenges their comfortable assumptions. So when you find yourself being disliked for standing in your truth, you might just be in excellent historical company. The empowerment of selective dislike. Here's a perspective shift that might liberate you. Being disliked by certain people should be a badge of honor. If small-minded people disapprove of you, you're probably doing something right. If mediocre performers think you're too intense, take it as confirmation you're on the correct path. If conformists find you strange, celebrate your uniqueness. In fact, being disliked by the right people can be a more reliable indicator that you're on the right track than being liked by the wrong ones. The question isn't, who dislikes me? But rather, are the right people disliking me for the right reasons? The authenticity advantage. Beyond the philosophical arguments, there's a practical advantage to not fearing disapproval. Authenticity is magnetic. When you stop contorting yourself to please everyone, something remarkable happens. The people who are meant to be in your life, those who resonate with your authentic expression, will find you. And these connections will be infinitely more valuable than the shallow approval you might have gained through people-pleasing. Your authentic voice has a frequency that will attract your true tribe, but they can't hear you if you're speaking in someone else's tone. The reality of social dynamics. Let's get brutally honest about social dynamics. Respect and likability are not the same thing. Many people who are universally liked are rarely deeply respected. They're pleasant but forgettable, inoffensive but uninfluential. Conversely, many of the most respected individuals in any field aren't liked by everyone. They've made peace with the fact that their excellence, decisiveness, and clarity will inevitably ruffle some feathers. Would you rather be universally liked but rarely respected, or deeply respected even if not universally liked? The choice defines your ceiling. The strategy of intentional polarization. Here's a counterintuitive strategy. Instead of trying to minimize disapproval, learn to use it strategically. The most influential voices in any space don't aim for universal appeal. They intentionally polarize. They know that a strong position that deeply resonates with their core audience is far more powerful than a diluted message that offends no one. By clearly standing for something, they automatically filter out those who don't align with their vision. This creates a stronger, more committed following and eliminates the energy drain of trying to please everyone. The cost of people-pleasing. Let's talk dollars and cents for a moment, because this fear isn't just costing you psychologically, it's costing you financially. Every time you water down your message to avoid disapproval, you're reducing your impact and your income. Every time you stay silent when you should speak up, you're missing an opportunity to establish your authority. Every time you avoid taking a bold position, you're blending into the background noise. In today's attention economy, being ignored is far worse than being disliked. The most successful entrepreneurs, artists, and thought leaders understand this. They don't focus on minimizing haters. They focus on maximizing impact. And they know that impact inevitably creates opposition. The freedom of indifference, true liberation, comes when you reach a state of strategic indifference to most opinions. This doesn't mean becoming arrogant or dismissive. It means developing such clarity about whose opinions truly matter that the rest becomes background noise. When someone criticizes you, the first question shouldn't be, "Are they right?" but rather, "Is this person someone whose opinion I've consciously chosen to value?" If not, acknowledge the feedback, extract any useful information, then immediately release its emotional hold on you. This selective caring isn't just psychologically healthy. It's strategically essential in a world where opinions are infinite, but your energy is finite. So how do you practically overcome this fear? Start by auditing your approval sources. Make a list of whose opinions you currently value, and ask yourself, have they earned this influence over me? Then systematically expose yourself to disapproval in gradually increasing doses. Share an opinion that might be controversial. Create work that expresses your true perspective rather than what you think will be accepted. Take a stand on something meaningful to you. Notice how the world doesn't end when someone disapproves. In fact, you might discover something illuminating. The very disapproval you feared often reveals who's truly aligned with your purpose and who was merely passing through your life. The ultimate question, when you're lying on your deathbed, reflecting on your life's journey, which will haunt you more? The disapproval you received for living authentically, or the opportunities you missed, the voice you silenced, and the impact you never made because you were too afraid of being disliked? The answer should terrify you into action. The fear of being disliked by losers isn't just an emotional issue, it's a moral failure. It's the abandonment of your potential, the betrayal of your purpose, the surrender of your unique voice. And for what? For the hollow approval of people who won't remember your name a week after you're gone? Stop this madness. Today, start viewing disapproval from the mediocre as confirmation you're on the right path. Start treating criticism from the unsuccessful as evidence you're disrupting the status quo. Start recognizing that being disliked by those who've settled can be the highest compliment. Because the ultimate tragedy isn't being disliked, it's being forgettable. And nothing is more forgettable than a person who sacrificed their authentic power at the altar of universal approval. So I'll ask you one final time. Are you still scared of being disliked by losers? If the answer is yes, then you've identified your ceiling. If the answer is no, then you've discovered your wings. The choice is yours. But remember, while you're deliberating, the clock is ticking. And excellence waits for no one. Like this video if it hit a nerve. Subscribe if you're ready to hear more uncomfortable truths. Share it with someone who needs this wake-up call, because the world doesn't need more people who are desperately trying to be liked by everyone. It needs more people who are unapologetically pursuing their potential, even if it means being disliked by those who never will.